Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I can never be more exciting than Andrew Davis, and I think it's just beautiful to listen to Andrew and what he has to tell us, because it is really a representation of that transformation from within, changing the whole of Wimpelcom. We're doing that with 50,000 people who are committing to that change and that transformation, which is not always easy, but at the same time, they're committing to shaping the totally new. And the totally new in our regard is VEON, a personal internet platform. We're trying to achieve nothing less than to change the internet at large with the VEON platform, and I have the privilege to guide you through today what this platform is all about. After now being 12 months with the company, that was quite some work to get here, and it's kind of a first off show to you that you can really see what that new platform is about. Let me, before I even go into the product, talk a bit about industry evolution with you, because I think it's important to always step back a little bit when you come to Barcelona and you're so overwhelmed by just another handset and a new next generation of networks, and it's always the same actually. Since decades, you always come to 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and we'll be sitting here in 20 years and talk about 9G. So that is the underlying trend, and people will show new device portfolios for that industry. But what really happened is this internet, now being 25 years old, actually, after Sir Tim Berners-Lee had the first connection in 1989, the year when the Berlin Wall came down. And then we experienced it as a connection actually to PCs as consumers and corporate users, became very interesting in the late 90s, as we know, with the emergence of eBay, Google, Amazon, the Netscape browsing, substituting really Mosaic. And what did telcos do at that time? They were rolling out 2G networks, as we know. Now, there was a next phase, really, in the internet, where social networks came about. Facebook or VKontakte in Russia, YouTube and video content came about. And the end of that second phase really was with the iPhone in 2007 and Android in 2008, liberating the mobile internet, which until then has just been a walled garden approach of all the telco operators trying to, in essence, copy NTT Docomo and their iMode system for a verge of 7 years, and everybody had invested in 3G at that time. So the telcos were watching the phenomenon again, and were building 3G networks. Now, in the last phase of this internet, really the messaging and communication theme came in. And with WhatsApp and WeChat and Instagram and Snapchat and all these phenomena really changed the way how people would relate to each other in the internet and communicate, not only in the text spaces, but also with voice enablement. And what did telcos do again? They rolled out 4G networks. So this is really this dichotomy between telcos and OTT players, where we simply as telcos cannot differentiate. We're all deploying the same networks from the same suppliers, most importantly from China today. And there's no way that telcos can really differentiate if they continue just rolling out networks and doing that more efficiently and just looking at the cash flow line at the end of the day. Because what's happening underneath that is a radical disengagement in terms of our user relationships. And Jean-Yves has mentioned it. We are serving 235 million customers today, which are not engaged users anymore. They are paying, that's true, and they are customers, but we've been disengaged. And we've been disengaged systematically in the last 10 years by events like that. 2007, you'll recall, a revolutionary phone came out with not only telephony, but music and the internet. And I recall very well, because I did the first big strategic partnership with Apple outside the US, when I negotiated 7 months with Tim Cook, not on commercials, but actually on what the business model would be for the iPhone. And we were debating 10 years ago things like revenue sharing on the telco bill, not only on apps. But it turned out that suddenly Apple decided that in the internet, revenues would be shared only between an operating system called iOS and an app developer. And those who would subsidize the smartphone big time and who would roll out the networks would simply be excluded from the economic equation of the internet. That was the model which emerged in 2007. And of course, 2008, Android was launched, and you see me here at the launch event with Sergey and Larry and Andy Rubin in New York in a subway station with a very early system of the Android operating system, as we launched the first ever Android handset together in September 2008, and that opened the internet. It was an open mobile operating system as contrasted to Apple, which was not that open at the time. But both systems excluded the telcos. And more than that, a customer relationship suddenly started not with an AT&T account or a Wimpelcom account or a Vodafone account. No, a customer relationship suddenly started with an iTunes account where you had to leave your credit card, or with a Gmail account in the case of Google and Android. So there was a complete disengagement in terms of logical user relationship. Now what happened then with the emergence of the messaging systems coming up starting from 2009, and here we are with the Snapchat IPO ahead of us and things like that, messaging platforms came in and attacked telcos in their core. Because people kind of were completely fed up with hidden pricing, with roaming charges, etc. And they started to use a tool for communication, which is pretty complicated for most of the users, that you actually text to each other, or you initiate a voice over IP call out of a messaging platform and relate to people quite naturally with something which is an OTT service. And telcos were sidelined because they did not get the message how big the frustration of users was with all these pricing and hidden regimes and etc. Now what's interesting, of course, and we know all of that, is that these messaging platforms don't stay there and don't remain communication platforms, but they are now, in essence, becoming the new ecosystems of our time. And they're becoming the new ecosystems of our time in the age of artificial intelligence, where we have a complete switch over since last year of the whole Silicon Valley, and everybody is moving away from mobile first to AI first and context first. And these platforms, and we see it with the example of WeChat, now integrate internet services of any kind. And they're using a personal context of users to actually do magic to users and produce a service as they speak, as they dialogue, as they communicate. Because when you communicate, the communication context is quite clear on what you would actually now need as a consumer. Would you need to book a table in a restaurant because you're talking to a friend about going out? Would you need to have a piece of information because you're talking about the last Arsenal match and don't have the score? Things like that are coming in. And I'd like to call that the contextual internet. Now, VEON is exactly built for that. It's built for coming from a universe where people are overwhelmed with apps to a contextual personal internet platform. What is the reality of a user today? A user can actually theoretically access 2.2 million apps in the Apple Store or 2.5 million apps in Google Play Store. But in everyday life, users are using 3 apps for 80% of their time. 3 apps for 80% of their time. And what does that tell us? It tells us that the model of forcing users to understand and go somewhere like an app store and download something and understand the service and learn it is overwhelming for the majority of the population on their planet. For us tech geeks in such a room, of course, we're used to our 50, 60, 70 apps on the phone. But people just use 3 apps for 80% of their time in the year 2016. Which means you have to have something which is a personal internet platform which enables you to really use the internet differently. That services come to you out of a context, and they're entirely different. So VEON, as a personal internet platform, is built around 5 foundations. First, it's truly personal, it knows you. Secondly, it is radically free. It's not free like the internet, where you use a service and think that's free. It's free of data charges. So you use the internet platform, and you don't pay, and it's not deducting from your data charges, and it would even work when you're out of credit. Thirdly, it's completely disruptive and radical, and I'll be talking about that in terms of security, privacy protection, because us not being an advertising-funded model, we can afford not to compromise on privacy, and we'll definitely do that as a company. Fourth, it's absolutely open. There's no way that you can be partial or exclusive or something. And then it's contextual with a massive investment of VEON as a company into artificial intelligence, in enabling IT platforms, and everything required around that. Now, here's the first screen. I'll go into the product just in a second. If you look at that screen, of course, it starts with messaging. That is the VEON platform. It is a messaging platform. It's a communication platform because messaging covers text, video, photo, emojis, animated GIFs, but of course also voice telephony. So it is a messaging platform, but it goes far beyond because it has all you need in one place, far beyond messaging. It has, first of all, a single account up here where you are still a telco customer, where you can access your telco account and do all kinds of things with it. But let's think that through for a moment. The telco account is maybe the only real source in the internet where you have an authenticated identity. So it is actually me, Christopher Schlaeffer, with my mobile phone number, with my email address, and with my payment credentials. I am not Maxi7 on Facebook or somebody. I'm fully identified and fully authenticated. And we can use that single account to actually enable all the services in the internet in a very novel way in terms of technology architecture. And you fully stay in control as a customer because we're protecting privacy. Secondly, this is totally free messaging with chat and voice calling. I'll get back to that. Thirdly, this is everything the internet has to offer out of the messaging stream. So we're producing an ecosystem where you actually can access things like taxi hailing, financial services, maybe travel services, etc., directly out of your messaging stream without the necessity to go to any app. So we make it completely simple, and these services are produced out of a context, they emerge, they come to you without you even knowing that the service exists in cases. Fourthly, this is of course content. This is news, music, and video entertainment completely personalized for you. And then this is all beautifully delivered in terms of the user experience in a single, elegantly done VEON stream. So we don't overwhelm the user and force him to swipe left, right, north, south, etc. to discover something on a third level. No, you're exposed to your personal internet platform out of a consistent single stream. Now, changing the ticker against the phone, which is here. We're using an iPhone for the presentation, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to launch the platform. Here we are, right? This is the messaging platform where I have my account on top, which you see, where I have a series of messages where I can scroll down and up, where I have a navigation bar on the bottom, which is messaging on the left-hand side, which is active in the moment, where I could do voice calls out of my contacts, where of course can access contacts and do something with their contacts where I do have setting. But let me go back to messaging and start with the most basic element of that platform first, which is of course messaging. We have in a verge of actually 4.5 months built a fully fledged messaging system which has all the features all major messaging platforms out there have today, and we have launched that part of the platform already quite silently in Italy. So that is what is out there at the moment, the messaging platform. So let's go into that, and that might even bore you a little bit, but I need to of course prove that this is a messaging platform. So I got, Jean-Yves, a message from you. Good luck, Christopher, break a leg. I'm a skier in Austria. I don't know whether that is really, what I want to have here. And I can, of course, message with Jean-Yves and say, simply polite as we are, Jean-Yves, thank you. And I might, send him back something like an animated GIF, or I do an emoji, which in this case is a V-moji. We're presenting to the world today in Barcelona, maybe a little gimmick, but it's much more than that, our own visual language with emojis. And I'm sending Jean-Yves this one, right? So I send it out. I could actually also take, of course, a photo of this cool crowd here, or this is even cooler over there, I don't know. And do that photo and send the photo to Jean-Yves and say, what a cool crowd at our analyst and investor meeting. So that's what I do. It's a messaging system. You get it, right? So I'm going to go back to the chat stream and see that Helen has sent me a video. Helen is a friend of mine. And what did Helen do? You won't believe it. I saw Katy Perry at the Brit Awards last Wednesday. So Katy Perry I already know because I've got 2 daughters, 20 and 17-year-olds. So I can, of course, look at the video. And I hope we have the sound on. Do we have sound, guys? And I can look at the video. I think you get the point here. So this is a message by Helen. I go out of that message by Helen and find another friend. So you saw it's completely video, photo, animated GIFs, emojis, everything is there. I go to May, a friend of mine from London, and she says, hi, catch up in London next week. And I say, of course, why not? But also, we're always going together with 3 or 4 people. Should we invite the others? Because there's always 2 people with us in London. So, question mark. I sent that back to MA. And what I'd like to show you is how simple it is, of course, to make a single chat, a group chat. She says, sure, good idea. So I go back to MA, and I can simply say, why don't we create a group with MA? And in our group with MA, we usually have Cherry, she's here, and we have Tony. Where's Tony? Tony seems to not yet be on the VEON platform, so we need to invite him, right? So let's create that group, which is the new group chat created with MA and Cherry so far. So I'd like to actually, go back and invite Tony. So I go to my contacts and I scroll down to Tony. I hope you can follow me. Tony Winters is not yet invited, so I invite him, and invite is being sent. By the way, VEON works for every user, not only our own network customers. So you can invite, of course, customers from other networks to VEON. It's not, a silo for just our Beeline customers or Windray customers or somebody. Everybody can be on VEON because this is an open ecosystem. So he's invited, and there's one more feature just to be complete. And here's Gabriel Giordani, and he has apparently given me a call on the platform. This is a free app-to-app call I got from Gabriel, so let's go in there. Missed call from Gabriel from yesterday, and I actually need to call Gabriel back here very simply. Gabriel is my global head of product management.
Hello?
It's here. So
Yeah,
we're doing that
you're
with
just
a
fine.
mic, otherwise it doesn't
No,
work.
I'm coming on in right now. I'll be in the door in a second.
Cool, come in. Gabriel, show us. Here he is. So you see, Gabriel is there. Just to show it that this actually does work in terms of a voice over IP call. We're actually quite proud that our voice over IP quality most likely is the best voice over IP quality of any messaging platform out there at the moment, because we're using very advanced codecs. It's a very strong feature of our platform, and it makes voice communication for real for our customers. So what did I show you so far? Let's briefly summarize in a chart. I showed you a messaging app, of course, so far. Maybe not that disruptive yet, but what's disruptive about that messaging platform is the network integration. This platform is completely for free, as I've said it. When you use the platform, you don't consume data. It always works. It is always on, even when you run out of a credit, which is for our prepaid customers in the emerging markets exactly what they experience every day. They're running out of credit on the 22nd of a month, and they don't top up for days, but they can continue using VEON because it's free even when you're out of credit. Now you think network integration through a bit, and you will immediately discover that the boundaries will be very much blurring between a text message and an SMS and chat. So there's no reason actually to stick to SMS in the future as a user, because it's just messaging to each other. So I'm actually proud to announce that we are able, beginning with today, to integrate message out with SMS. So you can send a message which will actually be delivered as an SMS with a non-VEON customer. And that is bringing the iMessaging experience to every phone and every operating system as a first. Now, needless to say that in our labs, we are working also on integrating voice calls with all kinds of networks. So in the future with VEON, once the lab is successful and the lab is fast, we can terminate voice calls out of VEON in a mobile GSM network. but we can also terminate a voice call out of VEON in a PSTN network fluently both directions. So that is network integration. So in summary, we have created a state-of-the-art messaging system which is entirely for free, even if you're out of credit. So let's go back. I'm going to go back to the home screen, and I'd like to demo you my account and my internet identity in that regard. If I click on here, I see that this is my account. This is Christopher Schlaeffer. I see where my account at the moment is. I have no data, but I can use this platform, as we know, without data. I have no minutes, but I can do VoIP calls without credit on the platform. I've got some SMS there. I've not got a photo, but an avatar here. So first of all, let's change this. Go into settings, tap on that photo, choose a photo from your library. You know the procedure. You've all done that already. You can go in there and just, it's being done. And that's how you change your settings. You see with your account here that you can easily top up. So we're completely automating our processes with VEON. We're moving away from offline processes, having to call a call center, or going to a kiosk in emerging markets, or going to some retailer with something like a barcode which you have to scan in a very complicated way in Algeria, Pakistan, or Bangladesh, to simply electronically topping up. So you click top up. You see that I already have a payment means in there, which is my MasterCard in that regard, because at the moment I'm a Wind customer. We've only launched in Italy so far. I simply type in an amount, and 7 is my holy number as a Catholic, and I top up, right? So I say, this is the summary, and it's done, and it's topped up. Now, in the very vicinity of that authenticated identity, of course, offers have a role to play. So I'm a Wind customer. If I went there, Wind knows from my data context, because we have location in real time as a telco, that I'm at the moment in Barcelona. I'm actually roaming, unfortunately. And why don't I go for a roaming offer? And I simply can upsell. So you get the story. I don't have to expand on it. So this is really what my account is. But the important part with my account is that we have the identity authenticated of a consumer. So let me go there and talk a bit about security in a context. We're going for an entirely new privacy and security paradigm at Wimpelcom, now VEON, where we, first of all, have the real personal data. Secondly, we are not sharing that data with services anymore on a personalized way. We are sending tokens which are anonymized. So for instance, we would have a credit card on file, and for a payment with a taxi hailing service which would use our messaging platform, we would not send over credit card details, but a technical token, which is a 16-digit code, just enabling that taxi hailing service to charge the credit card which we have on file. The same with personal data, which means in that new ecosystem, you can continue to use hundreds of services in the internet, but you can absolutely stop of giving your identity credit card location to every app on your phone. You just remain in VEON, and the technical architecture of a token which is traveling through the service connected to VEON anonymizes that, and that is a 100% secure system where you're not sharing your privacy details. Of course, the platform is end-to-end encrypted and has all the features you would expect from a security regime, but that is really important, which in other words puts the user in control. You can decide as a user what you share, with whom you share, when you share it, and how you disclose your privacy or don't do it. Now let's go back to the app after these fundamentals, which, oh, sorry, forgot that major announcement. You saw that I was using MasterCard in my thing. We are today announcing, Barcelona, and Jean-Yves has said it, a global partnership with MasterCard on their MasterPass project, which meaning MasterCard is enabling the VEON platform in all our markets and even beyond, which is one-click payment for any digital payment, which is connecting us with all the merchants MasterCard has actually in the network today, and that is across our markets, and that is a global partnership of which we are proud of. Of course, we'll support any kind of payment means in the platform. We are not exclusive on anything. This is an open platform, but this is a pretty strong start with MasterCard into the ecosystem. Now let's go back to the product. Because as I said, we were so far only talking about messaging and my account. Let's now talk about services coming into the messaging stream. And I'd like to go back to chat. And I see I have a new, message here from Mariana. She lives here in Barcelona. She's a friend of mine, and she is not in tech really. She's a bit more in the arts. And we have debated already a couple of days ago whether I should join actually a discussion on Thursday on the impacts of augmented reality on the visual arts here in an arts community in Barcelona. So that is the case. But she warns me it's going to be busy in Barcelona, as we also all know, with traffic. Make sure you plan for travel. Now, what I did forget is, where was that? I simply forgot the address. So I am clicking here and sending that. Where was that, Mariana? I don't have, really the address. And that is giving her the opportunity to sending me back this address, which is now here. It's Thursday, 7 p.m. in Enoteca Paco Pérez, Carrera de la Marina 19 in Barcelona. Now, what you see here in terms of contextual enablement is that a little sign pops up of actually the local taxi hailing services because an address was sent. And it's indicating that. Now think how strong a telco is. We have a clearly identified user who is authenticated. We always know the location. We know a lot of user data, and if the user permits to use that, we can produce services out of context with somebody even not knowing that a taxi hailing service exists. So I could click on that symbol. Did I do it? And Halo, the local taxi hailing app, actually has pre-populated their screen because they know I'm in Soho House at the moment. This is location data. They have fetched the address out of the messaging, out of the message of Mariana. It's going to Enoteca Paco Pérez. And it says, pickup time as soon as possible. Now I know not as soon as possible. I need to go on Thursday, of course. So let's go to Thursday. And it was 7 p.m., so let's start here maybe half an hour earlier, because I see that. I set the pickup time. My payment details are again there. Bear in mind, this is our credit card with that token being sent to the service. They would never get the credit card data. And I request the service. And out of that, I get a confirmation that my ride will arrive at 7:30 here in Barcelona and take me there securely. Now, let's recap for a second what we have seen here to understand the breadth of that. We are approaching the contextual internet, where I as a user don't have to know what services exist out there, but the service would come to me in my given context and support me with what I need when I need it. That is what is happening. So it's an immersive kind of internet out of context. It secondly uses contextual data in a magnificent way. I say it again, we have the authenticated identity, we have location data, and we have usage data. So think entire industries through, like taxi hailing, and I stay there for a second. We would know that tonight a match between Barcelona and Madrid would end at 10 p.m. Of course, it's not happening, but let's make the example. And that in that stadium with 80,000 spectators, we would have 11,232 users or football spectators who have a taxi hailing app on their phone because we know that this is on the phone. We would know that the match is ending at 10 p.m. We would create a heat map for their taxi hailing services and say, well, you better send 11,232 cars to the Nou Camp Stadium, and 10 minutes before the match is ending, a notification would pop up if you allow it as a consumer and say, what's your choice tonight? You want to go underground or bus again with, thousands of people? Or would you like a personal ride, and maybe for free because it's a first-time promotion? Think about that. You're creating heat maps and contexts. You could go to logistics delivery, where today the most fundamental flaw is when somebody is delivering a parcel to your home at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, ringing the bell and nobody's at home. It's a cost of on average 25 euro for a logistics company like DHL or UPS. But what is easier than sharing data like Christopher on a Wednesday, 11 a.m. is never at home. He is always in that office in Shoreditch where he has to growth hack, right? So when I'm loading the van in the morning, I'm just giving a choice and say, should we deliver to the office, here? And then that failed delivery is gone. I'm just making to you the example of logistics, and we've gone through all the industries, financial services, e-commerce, retail, etc., and thought through how our current and existing internet services actually can be disrupted in the future with a personal internet platform called VEON. Now, let's go back to the product. And we did that example. In the meantime, I got a new notification from a brand called Studio Plus. So Studio Plus is here, and that seems like a video. I click on that, and it tells me that this is kind of a movie quality type of video series with episodes, actually. It has 10 episodes. That is the new product of Vivendi from France, which has produced super high quality 10-minute episodes in a series. It's paid content in that regard, which I can consume directly out of VEON, right? I go in the full screen mode.
I know it will never go as far as
you see that? It's perfect quality. It's dubbed in every language around the globe. It's paid for content, short-formed, bite-sized, snackable, shareable on a mobile platform.
I need to go and find it.
And I simply consume it out of my personal internet platform. Now I stop that. I think the thing is clear. I could go to Studio Plus here and see other series which they're going to produce. And I'm actually proud to announce to you today that we have a global partnership with Vivendi on Studio Plus across all our markets with that high-quality content, taking the video experience on a mobile handset to a next level. That is Vivendi. Now let's go back to the product. I was there. I think that's clear. You need to go. I think we're stuck somewhere, guys. Huh? I unpause it. So, can I pause it again? Right? Back. Thank you. This is my global head of product, and he is also my development head, Gabriel Giordani. So, you've seen already in the beginning that we kind of, slipped over that picture here, which is in a frame called the daily. That is a daily content stream which we can produce in a personalized and contextual way, where you could actually access content which is pre-curated for a customer. So I'd like to go in that daily. And what I present to you here in the daily is a system of cards where I can consume content again out of that messaging stream, like for instance a music content around Deezer, or simply something around my favorite Café del Mundo here, or some m-commerce application. And I can go into that like Deezer. And this is about Sia's greatest hits. It's a story. It's actually something editorial. And my younger daughter, Amelie, has told me about Sia, so I'm curious to listen to the music. And I can do that outright of the app. I could share that piece of music. It's snackable. It's bite-size again. Kind of cool music. I'm rather a classical type, but this is what my daughter seems to listen to. That's Deezer, and I can follow it because I like it, right? So I'm getting more of daily doses, so to say, from Deezer. Now, we're also proud to announce, of course, a global partnership with Deezer today. Deezer is one of the leading music streaming services in the world with more than 40 million tracks on file. But the particular thing with Deezer is that they are so outstanding in terms of their algorithms and their approach to contextual intelligence. They have a flow product, which is really preempting your tastes and what you use in music. And they have local content for all our markets. So they have Pakistani content, Italian content, they have Kazakhstan content, and they're not going there just with the charts from the US or from France or from somewhere. They have local content, and we have a freemium service which includes local pricing. Because in our markets, with an ARPU of $2 or $3, you cannot afford $9.99 at Spotify or somewhere else. You have to have sachet pricing, per transaction pricing, etc. And this is what our partnership with Deezer is all about, to really cover the music space with a first example. Now let's go back one last time in that content section that you really get it, and we're going back to the to this, which is the daily stream. So in the daily stream, I could have new things like Yeah, which is a very novel e-commerce site, actually from Berlin. It stopped being the Snapchat of shopping by Forbes magazine. What I can do here is I can buy things which people are simply posting. So it's kind of a baby between eBay and Snapchat. And you go there, you see somebody is selling an underwater camera for €5. Or here is a loudspeaker. Or here is a full-frame fisheye lens. And with a swipe, I can buy it for 39, or I can share that with Aimee, who is very much into fisheye lenses, right? So I'm going back up. You get the idea. E-commerce services fully integrated in the platform. So I think it's becoming clear, if I summarize here, is that this is not only about contextual internet services, it's about an open internet where everything the internet has to offer can be accessed via a single personal internet platform, which goes along with a principle of no exclusivity, because who are we to decide on behalf of a consumer what a consumer would actually choose in terms of content, service, etc. It's completely open. It's a completely industrialized system with an SDK and APIs for the developer community out there to code against that new paradigm where you don't code an app anymore, but you immerse your user experience into the messaging product of that platform. So that's what it is, and it goes along with a new economic regime of value sharing. Because of course we are providing the context for these services, that a taxi hailing app can work like that out of context, which means in return we're asking for a revenue share for the platform. And that is the new source of monetization, breaking history, where 2017 and 2008, two Silicon Valley companies called Apple and Google have decided that telcos would never participate in internet revenue streams, and we're breaking it back and say, this is a rev sharing agreement. And all the operators supporting that with their data, our own operators called Beeline in Russia and Vintre in Italy, of course share back with the VEON platform because they have provided us with that. And it doesn't actually matter whether we 100% own that company, like Beeline Russia, or we are in a partnership 50-50 joint venture with Vintre in Italy, or even if we think it through, we would be out of footprint and doing that in cooperation with another telco somewhere. So there's no boundary of the thinking, really. Now, I guess for you, economics is an important topic, so let me do, a little section on that, a single chart, and leave the product. The economics for our company are fundamentally changing. We so far count subscribers or users, and we have 235 million customers in the most exciting geographies in the markets of tomorrow, which are 750 people, a tenth of the global population living in these markets. But we will introduce, maybe as the first telco in our communication to the outside world and to analysts and investors, new metrics like monthly active users or daily active users or DAU-MAU ratios. So we will have a different dialogue next year when we come together. We'll still do, of course, the metrics we need to do as a telco, but we will engage in a dialogue with you on how many of our 235 million consumers, to start with, have been converted into VEON users who are monthly active or daily active in a year from here. So this is very important. This is the key metric of re-engaging with a consumer. So that's where it starts. Now, in the short term, that re-engagement, and hopefully we are converting the vast majority of our user base, at least data users, into VEON very soon, and we are most aggressive on that. This conversion will lead to a dramatic impact of profitability and effectiveness of the core business. Because what are we in essence doing? We are shifting from offline gross ads, and we had nearly 80 million gross ads last year, to a huge and substantial share of digital gross ads, which of course comes with a different cost. We are changing subscriber acquisition costs because you become a digital subscriber from threshold somewhere at the moment in Italy, as an example, of 25 euro maximum, to maybe down to the single digits in the digital paradigm. From 25 euro to maybe down to the single digits. Very much depending on whether we can deliver the SIM card in a maybe delivery way via post. We're going to digital top-ups, getting rid of all these complicated distribution procedures in emerging markets. Again, with barcodes, with automated machines somewhere which you can handle to a single click, topping up like I've showed you. And with that, we're getting rid of the whole load on customer care. Nearly 14,000 people still work in customer care in our footprint. And our target is to, in essence, get rid of customer care. Maybe with a couple of examples over the years, because we can chat with service in VEON, and we can digitally top up and do that. We expect a very substantial churn effect on VEON users who are also our telco customers, most likely also in the double-digit percentages that churn is going down with that model. And we do expect an increase in subscriber market share, because already today in Italy, we don't only have users on VEON from Wind Tre, but also from our two other networks, which we see there at the moment. So there's a reason for VEON users to actually switch network, because what happens if I switch from a competitive network to VEON, I'm switching from paying for data to free. That's what's going on there. So this is the economic equation, and we'll be reporting to you how that turns out. And then in the long term, of course, there's a new revenue model for us. This is the value sharing with partners, which we are entering now. All of the partners we have communicated to you today are already part of that value sharing regime. Of course, we're not drinking water and praying wine. My English is too limited to maybe go there even, but that's what it is. Now, let's go back to the platform one last time to finish out. Now, what I have demonstrated to you today is a personal internet platform which is actually aiming at changing the internet as we know it. Nothing less. This is VEON, and about being truly free. It is something which starts with your identity, which is authenticated in my account. It has every feature of a modern edge messaging platform. It is including, in a contextual way, based on advanced analytics and artificial intelligence, contextual internet services of that new era, which Silicon Valley has just started. And it's providing a user with access to content of every dimension, also in a new way, bite-size, snackable, shareable, etc. That's what we do with VEON. And I've got a last word from Mark McGann, who is the new kid on the block in our executive committee, and he's sending me a video, and it is about Vemojis. So let's look at that.